So I'd like to call the Dover Select Board meeting to order on Tuesday, February 7th at 6:30 p.m. First thing is public comments. I have a agenda chain. We're gonna move the fire department down to right ahead of the consent agenda. Because we're at a 6 o'clock meeting and that way he's gonna do executive sessions. So the fire department will move down to below. I see nothing else on our new lovely big screen TV. So we're gonna move to the assessor, Linda.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I don't know if this is appropriate under public comments. I just wanted to give the select board a heads up. Jeanette and I have been talking. We're thinking about bringing to you perhaps at the next meeting. The liquor license approval process is going through some changes. The state has created an online portal, and we have some new folks in town, new businesses. Sometimes when they want to have an event, the lead time is problematic for them. So in order to get your approval, they need to have it the Thursday prior to your meeting. You meet twice a month. You know, if they can get it to us 2 weeks prior to the event, then there's no time for you to hear it. So sometimes delegate the authority to approve a catering permit, request a cater to an administrative approval, provided they meet all the criteria that either Jeanette or I are both, to help these businesses be able to have their events, even if they aren't planning on weeks in advance. I just wanted to put that on your radar so that if you have questions or want to talk about it in the meantime, but maybe next select board meeting, we might be asking about that.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, we're going to move to the assessor's office. We're going to revisit the clerk position, advertisement, and job description. Linda. So everybody got a copy of both of these in the email from Linda. Does anybody have any comments about, let's start with the ad, yeah, it's in a brief. So Sarah, you and Linda work together on this?
That's correct.
I read through it and it seems to make sense to me. Any other comments? Joe, do you have any comments?
No, I do not.
Scott? Okay. So I think the board is in agreement that you should be able to start to advertise for the position. Okay. Sarah, is that correct where you want it to go? You worked with Linda. Should we get the advertisement in?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I make one comment? The one thing I did add was that this is not a remote position. Basically because a former applicant just assumed they could do all of this from their house. And I was like, nah.
I appreciated that was in there.
Yeah,
Because it isn't. You have to work downstairs and yes, so I think it's appropriate.
that too much to get, well, that could potentially be lost. That would not be.
The job description. Now, I'm not sure how much of this has changed or evolved. Maybe you guys can walk us through any of that.
I sent this to you all because I wanted to make sure you had it before the weekend, knowing that this might need some tweaking, not too different from the one that went around as the combination position. I changed a few things. I did want to have Sarah's input, and I don't know if we need to do this in a conversation between her and I. She said she found it, did you say wonky?
Not wonky. I thought that not in the ad, but in the job description, the
Yeah.
level of detail you went into was perhaps greater than was necessary. It might be useful for you in terms of your employee evaluation. But if you're potentially getting applicants who are going to be coming into this needing training, the level of detail that you included there might have been a bit overwhelming. So if you intended that basically as an internal document, then I have no changes. But if you intend to show that to an applicant, you may need to be prepared to explain that these are things that they will be training up to, not necessarily things that they would be expected to know walking in the door.
I looked over the other one, it's not too different. And I most certainly would want somebody coming in, possibly to interview, to see this. Just because it's a partial list, as it says. And not specifically to what they would be doing on their own. Like, we all need to know it all and be able to jump in at any given time to say, all right, so-and-so's out, I can jump in and do this, so it doesn't pile up.
You may have to, I agree with Sarah, though, if you show this to the app, that they'll have a lot of questions, so be prepared for that, because it's not, if you haven't had experience dealing with these kinds of, or in a lister or an assessor's office, you have no idea what this stuff is, so.
And
Yeah, I was just saying, if you're expecting only skilled applicants, then this is probably fine. But if you're expecting that you're going to get people who are looking to be trained up to the job, honestly, if I looked at that without any explanation or conversation, I would probably not pursue applying to the job, because it was too daunting.
And maybe you should just add, like, once trained, once fully trained, these would be the tasks that you would be doing. Because most people are gonna come in and not be able to do most of these. Because they're so specific to this particular job. So, you can.
yeah, I mean, I would like them to stay longer than a few weeks.
Yes, that's why you don't want to overwhelm them with stuff.
I'd rather than be overwhelmed on the get-go than, but no, I hear what you're saying. And
Once you're fully trained, and these are the kind of day-to-day situations you're gonna be dealing with, and so, and I think that's just, if it's a good candidate, you don't want to overwhelm them with things that they don't understand. So I think that's a fair comment. You good, Sarah?
Yeah, like I said, if it's an internal document, I don't think it needs to be changed at all. But if you're going to show it to somebody, it either needs to be in conversation, or you need to be prepared for the fact that that may turn them off from applying when they would possibly be a really good candidate.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll add something and send it to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Is that good?
Yep.
All right.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay, and you have another thing on the agenda, which is to consider annual CAI tax map contract agreement, $2,000. Has this price changed from last year?
A little bit, I think. Yeah, I get a little confused because there's two costs. Right?
2,000 to general maintenance.
The general maintenance.
And then
yeah, everything has increased. I do believe I budgeted for that amount.
in this fiscal year. You know what you budgeted for next year?
Oh, I was thinking this is for next year, right?
This is the January 2023. So this
To
is
20.
half and half.
It's kind of an odd.
It's a calendar year.
All right, yeah, so right off, I'd have to look at my budget, yeah. So,
Okay, well, obviously we need this service and we can't avoid it. It's just it's good to have that information because you know we're gonna ask, right? Any other comments about this contract? So it can be signed by the entire board. There's multiple lines. Does somebody want to make a motion? And Sarah, can you want to, if you sign this, you want Jeanette to insert your signature?
Yes, that would be fine.
Okay. So does somebody want to make a motion to
I
consider?
make a motion that we sign the annual CAI tax map contract agreement for $2,000.
So. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
This also does have a $20 building added or changed charge too, so that was the second piece of the cost. What?
I believe that is always in there, and that is if they need to deal with the sketch. I upload all of the information, sketches, photos, so I have never had to have them do that. But that's been a standard line item in the general contract.
Well, it appears that they didn't update their contract because in one place it says $20 for that footprint. And the other one on the back sheet, it says 15.
I was gonna say, I thought it was 15. Well, I'll go for 15.
Well, we're signing a contract,
Yeah.
our names are on the one that says 15. So it appears they didn't update the contract fully.
Is that,
But if it's a service we don't use, then it's kind of.
I think it would be pretty rare for them to have to do a sketch for me.
Well, we've already approved this, so. I will sign, I'll have Scott sign.
I will check with him and make sure that it's the proper, that he sent the proper document.
I'm guessing they just didn't update the back page to the $20 fee.
And it looks like it was 1850 last time. So,
Oh, weird. Oh, the
oh no,
flat fee.
1850 as opposed to
Yeah.
2000. So it hasn't gone too much.
Okay. All right, moving on to unfinished business. We're going to discuss, consider use of ARPA funds for PFAS expenses. Eric. ARPA funds for PFAS expenses, Jeanette, which
That
was
was actually me.
I didn't know.
I didn't do it. No, I brought it up to Eric and actually Marco as well. Just something to consider how you going forward, how we want to use that money, since it's already in our account and it's in its own fund account apparently. But we're getting up there and the cost of continuing, it's almost $100,000 that we've spent and it's going to continue. So
I think
just
it's,
wanted to see how you wanted to move forward with it.
unfortunately, it's not the way I'd like to spend the money, but
Yeah.
it's been on, at least on my radar, and I've talked to Eric about it multiple times, that that's an appropriate use. But I know Eric is planning to do some public forums and I mean, that money's gonna have to come out of somewhere, and right now it's coming out of our general, yeah, so.
Yeah, I think, you know, just the general best practice for that money has been to discuss how to use it with the community, right, before it's spent. That doesn't mean we have to do that, but it allows us the transparency to say, you know, that we've offered that conversation. That being said, you know, because we took the standard loss provision when we did this absolutely should be an eligible use of funds. This is something that, you know, would be paid for out of our pocket otherwise. So I don't see why we couldn't use them. If I need to expedite the process of having that discussion publicly, then I can absolutely do that. I think it should at least go in front of the public and we say, hey, here's how we plan.
And not all the public is aware that we have this problem necessarily. So, and where's the money coming from, right? I mean, we've been basically floating it through the general funds, right?
Right, and if they're coming either through building maintenance, you know, it was both for the library building and for the whole town common and the landfill as well. And you know, right now, I did talk to Marco about it. It's possible once we have an agreement to move forward by using the ARPA funds, you know, we can go back to those invoices that have already been paid and, you know, change the line, create another line item that would take it from the ARPA funds.
So Eric, do you have a timeline when you want to try to start talking about these things? I mean, I hope you mentioned it at a town meeting, if it's going to be after that.
Yeah, so what I'd like to do, but I mean, mentioning a town meeting would be awesome because that's going to be the best way to spread the word. You're going to have the biggest audience to spread that to in the meantime. I mean, I have my mailing list, but even it's only the business owners. Two things with that is that I finally, at the meeting at the old school yesterday, was finally able to touch base with someone from DEC about setting up a meeting there for potential funding. So if we can offset any of those costs with DEC money, I would much rather do that than spend ARPA money on it. Secondly, if we can wait until after the April reporting deadline so that the reporting is much easier this year, then we allocate those funds after April and then, you know, deal with the reporting the following year. I think would be a lot easier than spreading it over years. But I will get on the meeting with the DEC to see where we can do money there. But if we could schedule something shortly after town meeting to have that discussion, we could use the town meeting as a forum to tell people.
Yeah. Okay, so yes.
Does that timeline work for you, Jeanette? Like, I know. I mean, we gotta pay the bills.
Yeah, I mean, we're paying the bills now, so we've been paying them for several years.
Right.
Just was hoping at some point we can stop taking from the general fund if we have this money available to us.
But I think that the conversation we can have, right, is to replace that money in the general fund with like pay the back bills, even though they're not with that ARPA money, if that's the
If we have
the decision.
Have we found, this is off topic and totally off this agenda, but has the testing of the well happened and how did the results fare?
Not yet. They attempted to do it right after the well was put in, but I guess it's common procedure for the well drillers to chlorinate the water. And so that gave them.
And that was since out of order.
And that's what,
so we don't know if it's clean.
If it's clean, not yet.
All right, you good with that, Jeanette? Since you put that on? Okay. We are going to consider the recommendation of the Conservation Commission to fill the open position. Andy.
Yeah, so you folks should have, folks should have a letter from the Conservation Commission recommending a person to appoint to the open slot. And perhaps the 3 letters from the different interested persons.
I made copies there as well.
I'm happy to answer questions. If you'd like me to talk about it first, I can, or you can just ask me questions or. however you want.
So, why don't you just tell people, everybody, that the person that you're recommending
Okay,
and first.
okay, so, basically, we had a slot to fill on the Conservation Commission. So we advertised for letters of interest from residents of Dover. And we had three people send us letters of interest. And you know, I've always said that Dover has just a huge resource in their people, the people willing to step up and serve. And this was like, we were spoiled in our candidates. You know, I would have selected any one of these three people. They would have been awesome. They all had different strengths. Basically, we had a gentleman who, if we wanted to change to a town manager form of government, he'd be an excellent candidate. His municipal experience is unbelievable. And, you know, recently retired, spent some time in Wilmington. He's now in Dover. Would have been fantastic. We had another gentleman who worked for the Department of Environmental, the DEC, the Agency of Natural Resources, the State Agency of Natural Resources, as a wildlife researcher, and perfect. I mean, it's a conservation piece of land up there at the town hall, the town forest that we oversee. Most of our time is taken up with that, and he would have been perfect. He would have added to the group. The third letter was from a lifelong resident who is an avid outdoor recreationist. She has a place up north. Her and her family go up north mountain biking, and they have snowmobiles, and a lot of what's going on at the town forest, which again is a lot of what we do as the Conservation Commission in Dover. A lot of what has gone on up there in the past few years has to do with recreation, outdoor recreation opportunities, and she's a user, very familiar with the property, and very familiar with its importance to the community as a resident, lifelong resident of Dover. And so we're recommending her for the position. Her name is Tracy Bartlett. And there you go.
I too am impressed with the quality of the candidates. That was a very difficult decision. Tracy is Phil Bartlett's daughter and is also the chair of DCSIP. So I think she also has a lot of stake in this town and the outdoors. So we are going to, if anybody has any questions of Andy or the Conservation Commission, now's the time, because we're going to need to make an appointment.
Let me just add quickly, Mr. Katie, his son plays basketball on Tuesday nights. I told him, don't worry about it, I would come, but he sent his regrets and signed a letter and everything.
Well, we appreciate him writing this letter and yeah. So, yes.
I was also impressed that we've had so many great candidates, and that's awesome to have that. So, and appreciate everyone that did it. Really, that
Right on.
not deterred by not getting it. So,
Right.
Yeah.
maybe they
I'm glad they want to come home.
yeah, maybe they could, I don't know, as would inviting them to be part of, like, just see the meetings or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, Scott. So I've thought about that as well. And, you know, often, I wouldn't say often, but on a regular basis, people come in the office saying, hey, you know, I want to be on this, or I want to be on that. And I always, if there's no slots open, if nobody's looking for, to fill a slot on that particular, I rack my brain trying to find out, you know, where, you know, that kind of enthusiasm should not be wasted, especially with quality candidates like this. I'm in total agreement. And I'll be doing that. I'll be looking to see who's looking for help, you know, for sure.
Any questions, Sarah, Joe, or
I don't have any questions.
thank you?
I have a quick question. This is Dana Cerise.
Hey,
So
Dana?
I understand that the commission is a member, as a three-party member. Would the other two candidates stay on as alternates, right? So for planning commission, there's 5 members and we have an extra, like an alternate. Was that something that the conservation commission would consider, just so that we don't lose these other people that are so qualified?
Yes, Andy?
So Dana, thank you. I never even thought of that. That's a fantastic idea. I don't know, the Conservation Commission is created by statute. So I'll have to take a look at the statutes, see if that fits in and can be done with this particular commission. And if it can, I think it's a fantastic idea. Thank you for that.
Anything else from anybody? Does somebody want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve Tracy Bartlett for the open seat on the Conservation Commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
For doing that. Thank you, Tracy, and thank you for all the applicants. Okay, moving on to economic development. We are looking at the Deerfield Valley Real Estate Dover sign.
Dover Commercial Signage Improvement
There,
Program.
that's what we're looking to potentially approve the application.
The only piece of information you had not received as of today was the approved sign permit, which I had money. So
Okay.
all the ducks are in a row. And we would like to be approved.
So I just am a little confused by the invoice from Southern Vermont Signs, and I think I have the answer to it, is less than what they're gonna, the rest is installation or what?
No, so the original quote was from a different sign company,
Okay,
and then they provided us with a new quote.
so how much do they actually ask me for?
They'll get the full $2,000 up, like the full $2,000 grant, but if you look at the quote, it's the new price is $4,000.
708,
Yeah.
because it says reimbursement request is 4,000.
Yeah, that's, we had a discussion with them that the max grant for this program is $2,000, so it's.
Okay.
They,
That was my concern.
they would be good.
Any questions about the Deerfield Valley real estate sign? Sarah?
Is it, are they basically just creating the exact same sign?
It's extremely close. So the sign that was there was actually damaged at one point. So they're removing the damaged sign. The one they have there now. I know it's not super clear from the photographs, but it's black and it's closer to square than rectangular.
Okay,
Whereas the new sign is the one circled here on the back, which is the white and more elongated
Okay,
than the original sign. So that's all been approved with the new sign permit.
Mhm.
It's just to replace that broken sign that's there.
okay.
any other questions? Okay, so. This is, I guess we should make a motion to approve this sign application.
I make a motion that we approve the Deerfield Valley Real Estate DCSIP application.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right. Next is Horace Hill Disc Golf RFP recommendation.
So after we spoke about this in December and decided to relaunch the RFP, we did so with a close date of January 13th. We received 4 responses to the RFP this time from some very, very qualified candidates. Our scoring sheets have been provided to you, as well as all 4 responses to the RFP were provided to the board. They were reviewed and scored per the guidelines that we discussed at the last meeting on how we're dealing with the RFPs. It is our department's recommendation that we move forward with Disc Golf Vermont / Disc Golf Park The disc golf Vermont portion is a gentleman named Chris Young, who's very familiar with the area. He's done projects all throughout the state and the region, and is very qualified to be installing this course for us. He'll be working in conjunction with Avery Jenkins at Disc Golf Park, who is a former world champion disc golf player, has been dealing with the town of Dover, discussing this project pretty much since, Jeremy brought it to my predecessor. And is one of the top designers in the world. So it's a good combination of skill and knowledge. So it's you can see from the scores that we provided that it was pretty clear who the best group to take on this project was. My only concern with their proposal was there was when it came to discussing cost, they said that costs would be reviewed as the course was designed and about to be implemented. And I said, well, listen, we have a hard stop on this number. So, if it's going to be higher than that, we need to know. And they said, no, the number we provided is the absolute highest that it would be. And if things are changed in the interim, then the number would actually be lower, which is another bonus in my mind. But I just, like I said, I think with the experience of Avery and the skill and knowledge of Chris, I think it's a great team to pair with Sinuosity, who we've already decided to do the trails, and I think it would be the best thing for the property moving forward.
So just for everybody sitting there, their proposed high-end budget then is $59,510. So that's the proposed budget. Stop.
Did she email you or did he email you that response to that would be the high one?
It was on the I spoke to Chris directly because we were at the point where I needed one final answer on the question,
Yes.
and he absolutely assured me that no, we would not.
That's, we got that right, saying it's absolutely, this is top dollar, it'd be great to go.
I absolutely, if it's something we needed right now.
It's always better than to have that. little
Yeah,
piece.
I don't mind getting that, Chris, if that's the tipping.
And the scores they were averaged and ranged from 91.25 down to 43. So, and the next competing one was 63. 80.75. So this particular company was clearly scored the highest in the group.
And our scoring rubric with weights and everything was provided to the select board, so there's full transparency as to how the decision was reached.
Does somebody want to make a motion that we enter into agreement with Disc Golf Vermont and Disc Golf Park to do our disc golf course on Forest Hill for a ultra maximum of 59,510.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second. Okay, Dan. Any comments from anybody? All in favor?
Aye.
I like it
Aye.
too.
Me too.
Mhm.
So just so everybody's aware of where we go from here, these two groups will be meeting with each other. We'll get on design as the snow begins to melt here. As a tentative design is put together, we will be presenting that back to Act 250 just because it will ultimately be different than what was presented to them for the Warrant grant. We want to make sure that we're dotting the i's and crossing the t's here. We don't want to get into any trouble on our own property. So as soon as that new tentative design is put together, we'll have that back in front to get a jurisdictional opinion, and from there we'll get everything moving forward. That could happen pretty quickly because we have a good relationship with our contact at 250 for these projects. So I will keep everybody informed as we go along.
Great. Nice job. Okay. We are now going to talk about Valley Trail A- options.
So myself and board person Sarah Chippy had a meeting, a Zoom meeting with Ross Goen from Vermont Department of Transportation, who has been at least our most recent contact at DOT on the Valley Trail A- project. For anybody who's unfamiliar, Valley Trail A- would cross the road here, would start on the Kirsten's land, go over the river, across the property at One Vocal Road, terminating basically at the edge of the property for Tollgate Plaza. This project has been ongoing for many, many years, precedes me by many, many years. I believe Ken started working on this back when Valley Trail was first discussed and implemented. When we got the grant, we received a grant amount from the state. It was a match grant with our total possible reimbursement being $292,500. And that was based on the idea that originally the project was going to cost us somewhere around $325,000. So we were going to be matching anything over $292,500 up to $325,000 to get the project completed. In 2016, we were provided with a new estimate of cost for $343,884.13. So it had gone up a little bit since the initial quote. Our most recent quote, based on when we would most likely be able to implement this project in 2024, it's a little cheaper for 2023, but the chances of us getting the work done in 2023 are pretty slim. So looking at 2024, the estimated cost to complete that project is now with a 10% contingency on top of the actual cost, we're looking at somewhere in the ballpark of $866,000. Our grant remains $292,500, despite the new costs. In our discussions with Ross at the state, there is a possibility of adding funds based on our original grant amount. But getting to that number, I don't know is possible. The decision that needs to be made by the board, and I don't know that it needs to be made tonight, it needs to be relatively soon, because if we are going to proceed, Ross needs to get our paperwork updated at the state, because that needs to be renewed every few years, and this is one of those. If we're going to pursue that, we would want to try to get as much of that money, extra money from the state as possible, and then figure out what else we need to buy or do to complete the project. That being said, the original intention of this project was to terminate at additional retail spaces south of our building here. Since that decision was made, many of those retail spaces are no longer there. I don't want to discount all of them, because Patricia Sweeney is still down there with Dandelion's Apothecary, and we appreciate her business. That being said, the businesses that were in the old appliance building, the ski shop that was there, are no longer being used for retail spaces, as well as the spaces that were being used for retail in Tollgate Plaza. Those are most likely going to be converted to residential spaces now that the property has changed hands. So it's not out of the question that we could move forward with the project. It's just deciding whether or not the time and energy to receive new funding, hopefully receive new funding to go on top of the funding we currently have, would be worth our time and energy based on what it is that trail will ultimately lead to. So I completely understand the intention of the trail. I completely understand the original want for that trail to continue from here to Wilmington. You know, it's a great thought, but it's a lot of work. Anyone who was around, you know, when this portion of the Pay Valley Trail was done understands how much work that was, and how hard it was to get a lot of those easements signed and things like that. So the idea of going all the way from here to Wilmington is a pretty heavy lift. I'm completely on board with whatever decision you make. If you tell me you want me to go after additional funding and keep this project alive, by all means, I will work my darndest to get as many dollars in the door to continue the project as I can. But just know that the longer we wait, the higher that price tag gets. You know, so we're talking over twice what it initially had been proposed to us.
It's 566 feet. That's already right now over $1,500 per foot. That's pretty heavy. You know, and I don't know, there's no guarantee we'll get $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 more, right? It could be $50,000.
there's one piece I left out, forgot to mention. By terminating the grant agreement, we would have to repay the state what we owe them to this point for their work on the project, which is in the ballpark of $9,000 to $10,000. Understandable. I mean, we've been dealing with them on this again since Ken Black was here, and that was a few years ago. So it's understandable that we might owe them some money back.
Dan,
Is this the only quote we have for this?
This is the only way this gets done. So this comes directly from, it was proposed to Sarah and I to take this project or this piece back to our MPM, our municipal project manager, plus an O'Neill, who we've been paying along to help us deal with these things, to say, because they have all the estimators, they do all the estimating through the state system and things like that, and they need, all of it needs to be done to DOT spec. So even if we got someone else to look at the project, they would still need to estimate based on that DOT spec, which is where these quotes are coming.
Obviously, we can't build bridge if we do the other work that needed to be done. Sidewalk.
but the bridge, I mean, once you get across the street here, the next thing you're gonna encounter is that river. You know, so the bridge is critically important. But otherwise, you're just taking it across the street, basically to the person's house.
Yeah. There's no plan currently in DOT pipeline to do any renovations to the bridge either, because we approached them with that idea to say, hey, is there any way that we could attach a walkway to the side of the new bridge or something along those lines? There are no plans currently for that to happen, and the bridge is apparently actually in very good shape, which is good news, right?
Yeah.
But it's bad, you know. So that's not really an option at this point.
That's really my concern is, I would like to see an easier way for people to walk. I mean, Linda Gerson was here talking about, you know, the dog being killed on that bridge. And I get it, that bridge is really narrow and there isn't room for walkers, but it seems like a huge expense for 566 feet of trail.
And based on, you know, in our conversations with Ross, you know, Sarah had brought up the point that there are other projects around town, like along Hindle Road, where we could do a much larger scope of project that would serve many, many more people for a fraction of the cost. It's not necessarily going to come with DOT money, but you know, when we look at the return on investment for our projects, I mean, we're talking again about your 566 feet for a project that, you know, would service many, many more people. Even the discussion about going north on Route 100 from here would service many more people and requires a lot less infrastructure and construction. So again, if you decide that you want me to pursue additional dollars, I'm happy to do that. But we need to make or get off the pot at this point.
Let's just say putting it like, you know, just thinking about all this, what we could potentially be on the hook for 500,000-ish, give or take, to add what, like, yes, we want to have safety. It's things that it's such a narrow bridge we could pass, but to bring what for $500,000, or we, you know, move on and we pay to 10,000, you know, to the state, 500,000 or 10,000.
Vicky,
People walking on Route 100 or walking north, they're right at the moment, there's very limited retail. And so the pedestrian traffic is not huge. Granted, that bridge is narrow and that is a concern. But we also have people walking along Route 100 north of Mountain Park, which is also concerning. Sarah.
Several years ago, when I first got involved with this, one of the hangups was the idea that if we withdrew from this, it would be a black mark against us with the state and make it harder for us to get grants in the future. But according to the conversation we had, that's no longer the case. So withdrawing from this doesn't do anything to us in terms of applying for future projects.
Thank you. That's important. Scott.
That grant, this probably can't happen. That grant is for just specifically just for that. It's not for like bridges or anything Just,
But literally can be closed and we could apply as soon as the window opens again for a new project. We just can't reallocate those dollars. The state doesn't love to do that.
Yeah, this money was for this project only.
That's taken almost 10 years to try and.
Oh.
Yeah, probably longer than that.
Yes,
Just a comment, like, I don't have a strong opinion on like the budget, and that's an incredible increase. I just say, I live in a house directly across from the bridge, so I get to see everything that happens on all the time. And I've actually seen so many near accidents with pedestrians crossing it, like one time a car hit the guardrail, another time I was crossing it, and I actually, two dump trucks came in different directions, and I had to jump up on the guardrail. So even if we decide not to do this project as a town, and that's the budget constraints, I still think it's probably one of the most dangerous parts of the entire town. And something, whether it's slowing down cars or making it so that you can see more clearly around the corner. Just my impression is something bad is going to happen there. We don't take some of them.
Vicky? Hold on, Eric, and then you. Okay,
We would obviously keep an eye on the bridge schedule, and if for any reason that bridge would be bumped up, we would be working with DOT to get that crossing installed, you know, as the new bridge went in. In the interim, there had been an idea floated, and it's very, very infant stages at this point about public-private partnership on land that may allow us to get from point A to point B without having to cross said bridge. So the accommodation we have as well.
Sarah?
I'm sorry if I'm saying something, you know, unconnected, because I'm having trouble hearing people, so I may have misheard something. But in terms of slowing traffic in that region, our hands are somewhat tied because that's a state road too. So we can ask the state if they can look at things like a blinking yellow or something of that nature, but we have no control over that road.
But I think everybody realizes that is rather odd intersection of roads, a curved kind of bridge situation, narrow bridge. But I remember when we were trying to get this bridge 57 or whatever it was, fixed north up here, they said absolutely no walking. But they did put a bigger bridge in, so you can walk across it and not be bored. Oh, I know, but they weren't going to cooperate with us at putting a specific lane on there. Yes.
And honestly, even with this completed project and the bridge that goes over the river, we're still talking about crossing the road at
Right.
the intersection of Deerfield and 100 on a corner. I mean, it's going to be dangerous no matter what. Right, even if we were to complete this project, that would still be a pinch point there and a danger point for people, for pedestrians using the trail.
Yes. So, does the board want to make a decision today? Do they want to, do we want to wait and maybe make that decision in 2 weeks when we can have more feedback from the public? Or it seems like an awful lot of money to put a sidewalk walk 566 feet down the road. Andy?
Yeah, so I just thought I'd throw this out there. You know, the project is a very long-standing project. If I were you, I'd look to take your time with the decision, even though time is pressing. You know, maybe taking another meeting is not a bad idea. It's been in the works for a long time. It is very important to some people in town. I don't know much detail as far as requesting more funding from the state goes. You know, I'd be interested to hear what the possibilities are there. In that $800,000 number become 400,000, and how much work and time and effort is involved in finding that out? Could it become lower than that? I don't know. I'd be interested to hear that. I know that the businesses that do exist down there, including Patricia's, would greatly benefit from this. As far as economic development goes, that's a strong argument. The safety factor is a strong argument. Just the fact that it's so many people have put so much time into it over the years, I would take my time with it, probably. Just my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Vicky?
Yes. Hold on, Scott first.
Okay,
Then be totally okay. That makes this good point. It's been going on for a while. There's people want to come weigh in, they should. And also where my mind goes, if someone was to get injured on there, or God forbid, something worse was life, yes, it would have seemed like that was the best money we could have ever spent. But at that same point, say someone gets injured up at another point where there's people walking the road where it's dangerous, and we know we could have spent money there, and put allocated dollars there to make it safer and gotten more than 500 feet, or it made it more safe and more access to more businesses. So I don't know, that's a lot of factors to be weighing in, but
Sarah?
if we're gonna be seeking public input, we need to come up with a way to ask for it and not just hope people will read the minutes of this meeting and know to come to us. Do we want to have a non-binding discussion at town meeting?
March 7th, Eric,
That's
just
a month, right?
what kind of pressure are you getting from the state, Eric?
We may, and it may, at this point, I don't know that it matters. It may end up costing us more money back to the state if we decide not to move forward, because like I said, Ross is going to need to update all of our, we're at the point where we need to renew for the project, right? So if he's got to get that paperwork started and in, then we may end up owing more time back to the state by the time we can.
Dan?
Randy, do you have any reports of problems on the bridge?
Nope. Nothing that I'm aware of that I've seen come across.
Sarah?
Well, realistically, we're either gonna make the decision tonight, we're gonna make it in 2 weeks, or we're gonna make it at town, right after town meeting, right?
Mhm.
So when does he have to start the paperwork in order to go forward this year or next year, actually?
So, Eric, we will have our reorganizational meeting on March 8th, which is the day after town meeting. So can they wait? We really, I agree that the public input, the biggest voice that we, biggest forum we can find to say.
Yep.
And I don't know how many people are truly passionately in favor of this and how many would rather see the money spent somewhere else, or if there are people who just don't, a lot of people just don't care about it. I mean, it would be lovely to have another bridge over the river and extend the walk, but the crossing of Route 100, there's already crossing up here, which can be dangerous at times. The paint doesn't last on the road anymore. It's basically unmarked in most of the year. So these are things to consider. Yes.
I can get an answer from Ross, as early as tomorrow. We can discuss again at the next meeting to say, hey, we have this time,
Or we don't.
or we don't, here's what it looks like.
Okay.
If that's the route you want me to take, I'm happy to do that.
The board happy with that?
Yeah.
I will
Sarah?
also ask about additional funding and what that looks like.
Sarah, you good with that?
Yeah, no, that sounds great.
Jim, Joe, you're okay with that?
I would like an answer how much money possibly we could get, because that would obviously be part of the discussion. But it
Yeah,
sounds like
Eric said that, but I don't think you heard it because he talked kind of quietly.
I heard exactly what he said.
Okay,
It sounds, it's like the chicken and the egg. We're not going to find out how much money unless we keep proceeding spending money, that they may give us more money. So we're like spending money to see how much more money we can get. So that's my concern. We may also, might be worthwhile to reach out to our senator or Horace and see, where things could be pushed on that end too, because it's been ongoing forever. And the only other last thing I had to ask for Eric, is this go all the way to the Dover Green entrance?
Oh,
Doesn't even go that far. So then we have people to the Dover Green where the.
Terminates on the down by the village, it was called
Colgate.
Colgate Plaza. It only goes to, which is now not commercial.
Right, so it just goes to like the entrance there. Doesn't go past where their driveway is.
no,
No.
I unfortunately would have to say that I would not want to further this anymore because it doesn't seem like it goes anywhere. So that's my only feeling, and we'll probably make that decision coming after town meeting day. But do whatever you can on your end, Eric. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, thank you, Eric, appreciate it. All right, now we're gonna have to talk about the fire department. And the new, Nancy Rich is here. Consider the Westover Fire Department personnel policy. So, Rich.
So I had brought you guys, some issues that we're having, and then one of the suggestions that came from Sarah, I believe, in the board, was that, use the personnel policy. But unfortunately, the personnel policy talks a lot about holidays, vacation, retirement plans that didn't fit. So we took the basic policy and then we removed that we didn't think that fit. We did bring it to the firemen at a drill and said, this is what we're thinking of doing. Please look at it, get back to us. Nobody got back to us. And we also ran it by the officers. The officers liked it. Of course, it's like anything, you can read it 100 times and you think you know what it says. And so somebody else actually reads it for the first time. So we felt it was pretty good. It may need to be adjusted. But I'd like to ask that the board approve it and sign it for us. The officers will sign it on Monday after you folks approve it, and then we will get it out on our new web-based learning platform and ask all firemen. We'll give them 2 weeks to review it and sign that they understand it. So I think it's very appropriate. I think it's worked well, and I appreciate the suggestion from the board.
Anybody on the board have any comments about it? Thank you, Sarah, for working with Rich on this. Anybody have any questions about the policy? It is pretty much our personnel policy, as Rich has said, just stripping out a lot of the employee benefits and things like that.
Things that didn't apply.
No, didn't apply. Does somebody then want to make a motion to approve this?
I move that we approve the Westover Fire Department personnel policy.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So I have a copy. Is there an original that we want to sign, or can we just sign on this?
Just email. So whatever.
I made a copy of this, so I have a signature page.
Oh, I had a copy there as well.
Oh. I always bring everything.
I know you do.
We kind of got messed up here, but this is fine. I mean, I have.
It's the same.
Okay. So there's a signature line for the entire board.
We can't wait to see how to get the people on TV to sign it.
Okay. Is that it, Rich, for this?
And also to talk to you folks about, the new pickup, and we did find that the auto mall has one. This is an FYI. It isn't exactly everything we're looking for. It's short. It's a short bed versus a long bed. But I'm gonna get all that information for you at the next meeting and go through that. And the person I was dealing with wasn't in today, but I'm gonna ask him if he can hold it to your next meeting. So I'll bring that to you folks.
Right, that's due.
Wanted fireman was at the coffee barn the other day, and was talking about that there's a device for the electronic cars, the electric cars that you, Tesla in particular, it's an $800 device that you stick it in where the plug-in goes, and it kills the battery so nobody gets hurt. Look into that. You heard about that, Michelle? course, it doesn't have to be really. Sounds like a good idea.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we're gonna move on to the consent agenda, which we are going to looking to approve the minutes of January 17th, 2023 and January 19th, 2023.
Was everybody here for both of those?
No. No, Scott was not here for the 17th and Joe was not here for the 19th.
Okay, so I make a motion that we approve the minutes of January 17th.
Second,
All in favor?
aye,
Aye. And I make a motion that we approve the minutes of January 19th.
second,
All in favor?
aye,
Okay, now we need to approve the warrants of January 21st, 2023 for $272,265.44. And the warrants of February 4, 2023 for $197,441.66.
I make a motion that we approve the warrants of January 21st for $272,265.44 and for February 4th for $197,441.66.
second,
All in favor?
aye,
Aye.
Yes. All right, we have FYI, we have executive session with Linda Sherman via Zoom at 8 a.m. on Thursday, this Thursday. And Jeanette, are you gonna be on Zoom with us?
Oh, goodness.
You can do it to do the
I can,
Zoom meeting. Can you do it, Sarah?
yeah, if it's executive session, we just need minutes coming out of it, right?
Well, yeah,
What did you want?
well, we're not gonna record it except for when we go in.
Right, I can take care of that.
Okay.
So you can
And then we come out and we'll have minutes from after that, but yes, but we obviously all want to see each other and Linda.
Okay, so Sarah, you'll be able to launch the meeting? Is that right?
That's why I was asking Jeanette.
Oh, can I just,
Yeah.
do I need any special permission?
No, I'll do it. I'll do it.
You can launch it? I'm sorry.
Then you can leave.
We can launch it from home and then,
You can leave. And then we can text you or call you and say we're out.
Okay, so I'll be between here and home and work, so
Okay,
shouldn't take an hour.
it shouldn't take an hour.
Oh.
Okay, are we good with that?
Okay, I think
yeah,
so.
I think, I mean, if everybody just leaves the meeting, it'll stay going.
It just goes away. Jeanette will make sure
I'll have to think on that.
she'll get to us before Thursday at 8 a.m.
Yes.
Or you can share hosting with me and then I can do it.
Okay, that's a lot. All right, we'll work it out.
Okay,
All right.
So your
I'll call you.
question on, you'll send a link out, I assume, because there's no link yet.
It's
The
already,
link's sent.
it's already gone out.
Same one.
It's the same link we always use. Joe,
Okay, so it'd be the same one as the select board meeting?
yes,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and I sent that in an email.
I got it.
It's in the email from 4:30 this afternoon
Mhm.
All right,
or yesterday, sorry.
Monday.
all right, good. Okay. We have a letter regarding Dover's LHMP approval.
Yes, these are here. Those are you guys.
Oh, I think I have that one,
I
yes,
think I sent them all to you. but,
which means,
She said it's been approved and it's good through 27, that.
November 2027. Okay, we have Act 172 Municipal Energy Resilience Grant Program.
And I think I sent that all to you, or I might have forwarded the email. But it's a new program that they're starting. It can apply to town-owned buildings. So it may be something we can consider. It's about energy audits. Grants are available. I guess there's quite a lot of money involved, so it might be something. The windows at the town hall or
Yes.
something like that. And apparently they can only do. At this point, only one building will be able to undergo an energy audit through the program. So I guess we would have to determine.
But we've had some
Yeah.
basically energy, some auditing done, so we want to prioritize one that may not have time. We have a letter from the Conservation Commission to the Trails Committee. We all got copies of that. That will be discussed at the Trails Committee next week, I'm sure, right, Eric?
The answers will be provided at the Trails Committee. We won't be discussing.
Filling them out, or you just
Yeah, we'll send them prior to the meeting.
Okay. We have open mic nights, February 8th and February 22nd at 6 p.m. at Dover Town Hall. We have, the planning commission is going to meet on the 13th and the 27th at 6:30 p.m. Trails and Rec Committee meet on February 15th at 6:30 p.m. That's not normal, that's a Wednesday night. And the River Valley School District is having an informational meeting about the vote, which is happening on the 21st of, which is a Tuesday night, of February at 5 p.m. at the Dover School. So people can attend both. That shouldn't go if you wanted to, and that's only in person. So if you want to go to that, you think it'll be done by 5:15 or so?
Last night, it took 10 minutes.
Okay, so that should be a quick meeting, but there'll be information about that vote in this week's newspaper. Okay. Anything else on the FYI world? Liaison reports? Yes.
Spoke with Travis today. Got Richard Sedlock, who was willing to do the pre-on unloading of the appliances at the same price as the company, I believe it. IFFI, which I really give it a plan for, $8 for each appliance. He's local, and you won't have to wait until 25 of them are there for them to come up and do it. They'll do it as needed, so you won't have an accumulation of a lot of appliances by the transfer station. Spoke with Travis, he's contacted Rich.
Okay. So can you put that on the agenda for the next meeting? The pre-on. Sure. Yeah. Okay, any other liaison reports? Hearing none, we are going to go into executive session with Rich Warner for the Westover Fire Department personnel for 7:38. Thank you all. Have a lovely night.
Thank you.
And 7. Coming out of executive session at 7:45 p.m. by unanimous consent. No, you need to make a motion.
You need to actually say the word.
I make a motion that we hire Sarah Shipley on a temporary basis to work with for the Westover Fire Department with an average 12-hour work week at $18 an hour.
Second, as an administrator.
As an administrative assistant.
Second again.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
Uh,
I abstain.
Westover Fire Department, Sarah.
Thank you. Rich, I can't start till next week because my husband has COVID.
Forget it.
24 hours next week.
I'd like to adjourn the meeting at 7:46.
Thank you, everybody.